joining us for our daily panel, Phil Goff, former Auckland Mayor. Good morning.
Morning.
Along with Simon Bridges, Auckland Business Chamber. Twins this morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Very good.
Not only twins in the colour scheme, but we're both former leaders of the opposition, and we both attest that that's the worst job in
Yeah, I was going to say, don't remind me.
Yeah, do you think Chris Hipkins will be in that job for a while longer? Well, actually, if you look at the poll numbers this morning, potentially a hung parliament next year. Simon,
Yeah.
Worst of all possible worlds. You need strong government either way, and to have a poll where you encourage the tail to wag the dog, that's already happening now in politics. That's not a good thing for New Zealand.
But New Zealanders get what they vote for.
That's right. That's democracy.
And I think it shows, it's kind of where we are. I think a lot of people put a lot more on personalities than is true. I think actually a lot of it's just, we are in a bit of a malaise, certainly in Auckland, and people are looking, where's the direction? Do we have a sense that there's a plan? Are things going to get better? And I think
you don't reckon
it's a pretty tough environment.
Because Auckland's unemployment is amongst the worst in the country. Your idea is the government should be investing money into Auckland to get the ball rolling, but then we had that Treasury report last week on COVID saying, no, the heavy lifting should be done by the Reserve Bank in situations.
Well, that'd be great if the Reserve Bank was doing the heavy lifting, but the reality is the rate's coming down a bit, but if we were going to see that do the work, it would have to do quite a bit more. I'm just simply saying, look, in the end, we can try and pretend things aren't really tough in Auckland, but they are. There's a few people out there who say, oh no, you just got to have the power of positive thinking. I don't subscribe to that. I think there's an urgency around what's required, and I put out a few things that could be done. Look, if we moved on visas into Asia and we liberalised that significantly, we'd see a lot more Asian tourists here because they're certainly moving around Asia. Look, whether it's Sky City or the Corner Dairy, they need a bit of that. I also put out there corporate tax cuts. People will have different views about that. Yeah. I'm really just saying, how about some things to put a shot in the arm?
Phil, how far do you go with that? And can you start, should you start looking at adjusting safe debt limits and stuff?
Well, look, a couple of things that need to happen. I agree with Simon. International students and tourism are two easy wins, and Auckland is the biggest centre in New Zealand, attracts those people. But you've got to look at the construction industry. I've got a son in the construction industry. He said he's never seen it worse. Yeah. And I'm doing some reading at the moment about what I was doing in the 80s. I'm putting together a book. And what was happening was the stop-go in construction industry was damaging construction, damaging our ability to get enough houses when we needed them. And when the recovery comes, which it will come, you find that you've got no apprentices that have been taken on, you've got your tradies that have gone to Australia, and then you're going to be in an inflationary cycle when you have to actually do the building. So counter-cyclical economic measures still make sense to me. And using the building industry while you've got unutilised labour, land that houses have been demolished on for building, and then the building was stopped. You've got the land, you've got the materials that are cheaper now than they would otherwise have been because of lack of competition. You've got the workforce. Why aren't we doing that?
Now's the time to do it.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about Northland. This is quite an alarming story because of the number of alleged homicides this year. Nine.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And you've got, I was speaking to Chris Cahill this morning, he's saying it takes you 27 cops full-time for 2 years out of action, those 9 homicide investigations. So a huge
I used to work on murder trials as a young jury trial lawyer, Crown prosecutor. And I don't mean to be glib, they're terrible, but technically actually your average murder trial in New Zealand is a bad assault that's gone wrong, right? But it is true, they are the Rolls Royce of criminal trials. And so what happens is police are in the grass looking for the minute piece of evidence. I mean, it is hundreds, if not more, hours of time. So at one level, this is explained by it's a spate, right? You've just had, I don't want to say bad luck, but badly, a bunch of things going on, they have to move. I do think, though, if you think about Northland, same is true of, Tairāwhiti and other parts of New Zealand. In the end, what we need to see there is more economic opportunity. I mean, I think the government's putting the big road through, but that takes a long time, and that'll have a real effect, but it's economic opportunity.
And in the meantime, it's meth.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. Yeah, economic opportunity, the impact on families, and some of the problems, apart from the homicides, are family protection issues, and that reflects that pressure. But methamphetamine's a scourge. I was just amazed. Living in the United Kingdom with nearly 70 million people, nobody nobody talks about meth. It hardly appears there. I mean, they've got other drugs.
They've got heroin and the bad stuff.
They've got other stuff. But methamphetamine, that's what the Nazis used to make the SS officers more aggressive and keep them awake.
Yeah.
That's got to be a factor in that level of homicide in Northland.
Why is it that New Zealand has such a meth problem? Because it's not like it's not a recreational drug that people use, for festivals and things. It's like a lifetime daily addiction drug, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hard to know why New Zealand probably has the worst statistics for methamphetamine. But it's easy to manufacture. You're talking about somebody whose house was used as a meth lab when he was overseas by a gang.
I've got to say, you weren't there at that time, Phil.
No, I wasn't there.
Wait, what? I didn't know that.
Just want to clear that up.
It's just cost me $160,000 in renovation for tenants that were there for 9 weeks. Just outrageous.
You're kidding me.
But look, leaving aside my personal position, what really worried me was that they had kids in that house, and the meth level was 200 when the safe level is 15. Now, what's going to happen to those kids? How are those kids going to grow up? That's what really worries me. I can deal with the financial side, but what do we do with those kids? What do we do with the kids in Northland that are growing up in those families where drug abuse is rife, they're neglected, their mental development's being affected by drugs? That's got to be, a focus of government to the utmost extent, because real damage is being done.
And Simon, you've got the iwi and hapu crying out for more police. And I just find this hugely ironic, because at the same time in Wellington, you've got the Greens, purportedly a party there to support low-income, poor communities, saying defund the police. We don't want police.
It's rubbish.
It's nonsense. And you've got people who are saying we need more now.
I totally agree. Look, I think it's ridiculous positioning from the Green Party. It's good to see that iwi call. I mean, I think at the end, if you think about that police thing, yes, some of it's planning. We do need to see more coming through in regions like Northland, but as I say, some of it's probably explained by that spate. I mean, to talk about what you were saying around meth and why we've got it, I think some of it's a sense of timing and when it came to New Zealand, right? We don't seem to have the problem. What's that terrible drug in America? A touch wood that... fentanyl and so on. And actually, you go to LA, I mean, you will have seen this or other parts of, and you've got the zombies walking around and so on.
Bath salts
that didn't come to us. We did get meth though, and I think we still seem to, for whatever reason, be a place for cheap importation of it from other parts of the world.
Trump and Putin going to be meeting in Alaska this weekend, our time, Saturday our time. TBC, whether Zelensky's even invited. It's got to be a rough pill to swallow, Phil. To sit there and watch these superpowers. Here's a guy who, in the Ukrainians' minds, should be arrested and locked up.
Absolutely. And what confidence can we have in Trump in getting a fair deal when he said that it's Zelensky that's the dictator and not Putin? Putin, the man that routinely murders his opponents, poisons them with Novichok, and says that Ukraine started the war. And at the start of the year, leading to my return to New Zealand, of course, talking about, he was literally doing the Kremlin's talking points. Just drives you mad. He doesn't believe in the rule of law. He doesn't believe, at least Biden said, this breaches the fundamental principle of the UN Charter. It's aggression, clear aggression, and war crimes that Putin has committed. Trump doesn't worry about those.
No, but
he just wants a deal.
Yes,
I agree. I agree with that fundamentally, right? And you've got strong views on Trump, and fair enough. What I would say is, though, we are in a position fundamentally where Trump has moved into a better space on Ukraine. I think at a level now, his administration sees which side is right and which side's not quite so right, and that's progress from where we were at the start of the year.
What's made the difference is that finally Trump has worked out that Putin has been playing him.
Yes.
And he doesn't like to be played. It's all personal with Trump. That's the problem. It's not about principle. It's not about justice.
Fully agree.
It's personal.
But at least we've got there.
Hopefully we'll get a better result, but I wouldn't rely on it.
The other thing is the Europeans have come in and sort of started to fill the void a little bit and support Zelensky, and he should at least be at the table, that kind of stuff.
Fancy having a deal. I mean, this is a bit like Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia in 1938, where Hitler and Chamberlain decide the future of Czechoslovakia without Czechoslovakia being present.
Sure.
So we hope that is not the outcome.
That's what got you into trouble last time.
He's a free agent now.
True.
Go for it.
I'm relishing my freedom.
Speak truth to power.
Well, how would you deal with Trump if you were the Prime Minister right now?
Yeah.
How would you deal with that?
You would try to avoid them as much as possible. But
Problem with that is we got a 15% tariff.
yeah. But we've got a
I agreed
15%
with that.
tariff after the New Zealand government kowtowed to Trump as much as it could. You know, that 15% tariff's really damaging because it's higher
But
than...
it could have been 20.
Yeah, correct. Maybe if we'd engaged, it would have been 20, and Trump would have been taking golf courses.
Yeah. I mean, you know...
Tara Edie, I like that golf course.
No, I think what you've got to do, though, is still speak your values. I mean, what really got me moving in London was a woman that I talked to who had been a teacher, and she said, in every playground there's a schoolroom bully. And the bully picks a victim and abuses them. And every other kid in the playground knows that that's wrong, but they say nothing. She says, and that makes them the enabler. And we can't afford to be an enabler either.
Right.
The few that have stood up have sort of actually tended to do a bit better.
Yeah,
Actually,
in
at a level.
a funny sort of a way.
I don't know
Trump
if that's a
might-
good strategy for New Zealand. We're too small, but for the bigger guys and girls.
But you can't ignore things that when somebody lies that that Zelensky is a dictator and Putin isn't. Surely you've got to speak the truth.
And that White House Oval
It's
scene with
wacky.
them and him was
Was a
possibly the
disgrace.
most unedifying thing we've seen
It
in
was the
recent
most
times.
disgraceful thing I've ever seen out of the White House.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to spend so long on this, but is there something to... You kind of need someone in there who's not going to be principled, who is going to be a little bit more pragmatic and can potentially actually get something signed as opposed to talking about it, you know?
You've got to be pragmatic, but it doesn't work to be pragmatic and sell out your values and not call out things that need to be called out because they're wrong. Otherwise, why are we a sovereign nation if we're not prepared to speak to our values and our principles? Why don't we become the 51st state if we're just going to say to Trump, yeah, whatever you say.
That's
Mr.
another good
President.
headline.
Yeah.
This is Goff bait at the moment. This is, we've had meth house to whatever that is you just said there.
Yeah.
We don't want to be principled and poor, though, do we? That's the thing.
No.
You
But you never do it on your own. We've got like-minded countries. The trouble is, New Zealand. Take the Gaza for example. We're lagging on that when other countries,
Yeah, we are.
most other countries are
steps
well
behind.
ahead of us in speaking their mind and to principle.